when people first walk into the facility, when we have customers coming over from the States, from Canada, from Europe, is they have that feeling of security and this idea that, wow, these guys are, they're serious.
Welcome everybody, welcome to Black Cat Chat. Andy Clow, Marketing Director at Black Cat. In this series, anyone who's tuned in already, you'll know that we're doing things slightly differently. And this is definitely a first for us today. Those familiar with our normal background will see that we're not in front of the normal illuminated sign. We're actually at one of our clients who very gladly they've welcomed us into their amazing site that we've worked on over the previous years, and we'll go dive into that. That's why we're here. To call it a shed in our terms would not really do it anywhere near the justice. So I'm sure at some point in the edit, we're going to start rolling in some really nice aerial shots of the building to give you the concept. But so I'm joined by two people today who've both been very heavily involved in the process of making the building the success that it is. Immediately to my left, we've got Rich Millington. What is your title at Sandon Global?
I'm Managing Director.
MD at Sandon Global. And then slightly further across there, we've got Peter Ferrand-Brown, who is an architect. Are we fair enough to call you that?
Indeed. Yes.
In one of the companies that we Black Cat have worked with many times, 2M2 Studios. So I'm going to do a quick handover to Rich for his intro, and then we'll just let the conversation go from there. Rich.
So yeah, Rich Millington, been Managing Director of Sandon for a bit longer than I think probably 5-6 years.
5-6 years.
So saw this entire build through from start to finish as Managing Director. We're a business 20 years old. We are predominantly involved in the flexographic printing industry. So our customers are printing things, anything from a bag of Walker's crisps to the corrugated board that you'll see your dairy milks sat in, etc., etc. Our product essentially is a metering a correct amount of ink onto a printing plate within that flexo print process. It's very complex, I'd say high-end manufacturing process. So we use thermal spray coatings. We later engrave microscopic cells into ceramic surfaces.
I've had a quick tour from your colleague Gary, and my word, the precision details from somebody who's worked in print for 25 years, it was mind-blowing. The numbers that he was saying to me that I really did not understand.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we're talking about 1.4 million cells, little holes that will carry ink within a square inch. It's microscopic,
mind-blowing numbers,
technology. Yeah. So this is our 20th year.
Congratulations.
And we are very excited to have you here today.
Awesome. So let's we'll quickly jump over to you then, Peter.
Sure.
Give us a little bit of an intro to why we're sat here as the three of us today.
Okay, so as you said, architect of many years standing.
Yep.
My background predominantly commercial architecture practices throughout the years. Latterly at CBRE, where I headed up the A&D
Very
team.
familiar to any of our listeners.
Indeed.
Another CBRE. I don't want to say ex-colleague or whatever it is, but another.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Still trying to convince Peter to design my extension.
Can you afford it?
happy to do so. Yeah. Anything for a fee. So we ran the A&D team out of the CBRE office in London.
Yep.
And the great thing about CBRE really was that through that I got introduced to a number of regional offices and indeed international offices. So it was a good time. And as part of that, we met with the guys in the Manchester office and Liverpool, and elsewhere started to work with them, a number of projects. And it was really good. We managed to win a few design awards, which is always great, but more importantly, had a sort of string of very happy, very satisfied clients, which was great.
Yes.
One of which was New Balance, which is a project at CB.
Yep.
And that's where we first met with Stephen and James.
Right, okay.
Basically project managed New Balance with us as designers. That went really well, and I think we all got on really well.
Yeah.
Which was great. And then
You're still getting invited to our parties.
I do.
10 years
In
on,
fact,
with it,
yes,
so that's
yes,
a good
the last
sign.
one was really good, really good. So then Marzia, who's my associate, she joined CBRE partway through my tenure there, and she really is the main sort of design force, and she really was able to lift the design to another plane, really.
Yeah.
Hence the awards and so on. So we decided to break away and to start up our own design side. Shortly after, actually, Stephen and James with Ben set up Black Cat.
Okay, fabulous.
So that worked really, really well. In the early days, Stephen was very helpful to us and supportive of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it got us involved in a pitch for a project called LPW Technologies, which coincidentally was here in Runcorn.
We've not said where we are, actually. We are in Runcorn, in the northwest.
Indeed.
Yep.
So they run Runcorn. They were moving to a new facility in Widnes, just across the river. So we were involved with, and with Stephen and James as part of a whole multidiscipline team, which worked really, really well. They're very good at sort of handling that whole multidiscipline offer to clients. So that project was similar insofar as it was a big production shed with 3 stories of offices on the front. That we didn't design that shed. That was part of a lease deal that the LPW did with a developer. We designed the interiors of the 3 offices, if you want, in the front. And that went really, really well. And as a result of that, we then became involved with this project for Sandon. And maybe, Rich, if you can sort of pick up on how that all came.
Do my job for me.
Absolutely. Let's go. So we, the ownership of Sandon, so it's my father's business, and it has been a long term, to call it sort of a 5-year plan probably isn't correct, but part of his, let's say, long-term projection for the business was to not be in a leased facility, but to have a bespoke building that suited our requirements. I think sort of explain a little bit more about the business and why that felt so important to us is that because it is a very technical product that we produce, and the vast majority of what we manufacture is to export markets. So we're probably 70% global export. We've always felt like we needed to project the correct image globally of what our business produces, and felt really from a very standard industrial unit. Although we attempted to do it the right way, we fitted it all out nicely, but it was always just
This is your previous premises.
Our previous premises were always just a little bit sort of inflexible, really, to the.
But it wasn't your building. That's what we're saying. Right?
Wasn't our business.
Yeah, you can only do certain
leased premises. Additional to actual production workflow was a little bit ugly because bits of kit land, you drop them, and then we took on the second half of that unit.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And so the production flow was always a little bit ugly. So there was a real drive and desire to sort of put down roots, I would say. Okay. I think to some aspect for my father as a legacy, but also again that sort of projection that we're a business that's really looking at innovation, R&D, and is somebody that our customers can depend on for the long term. So the route that has ended up with all of us guys sat together today was a personal friend of mine was the builder of the facility. So we kind of came to Black Cat and Peter 202 sort of probably in a non-standard route, I suspect.
That's pretty standard for Black Cat, I'd say.
Okay.
A non-standard
Yeah,
route,
fair enough.
However it is, but
Fair enough. So Chris Cumberbatch, builders, very close personal friend of a family friend of mine. Chris had recommended a few different project management teams, but was very keen to stress that you're going to need a company to really define this project, but also to take care of it in the full scope. And how right he was. So we sat down and if you like, interviewed a few different companies.
Yep.
We spoke at length with Stephen Barnes and James Dyson, and just naturally had, I think, quite a comfortable bit with those guys, and I think they understood ultimately what the sort of genesis of the project and what the plan was for it. So we initially began working with Black Cat. They took us round to LPW to take a look at their facility, to kind of, I think at that point, sort of get a measure of what exactly are you looking for.
Of course.
Because at this point we were probably talking, we were talking about an existing facility that was a bit of a dog that we were planning to put an extension on the back of, and go from there. So we went round LPW and we're kind of like blown away really from the as we got into the inside and looked at a fabulous staircase, looked at some of the imagery around it, the idea of the little niches that had been created for and like breakout areas for people to be having meetings in, etc. And it all just felt very sort of felt space age in comparison to the tin shed that we'd been in before. So, you know, it was very, very exciting for us. And so from that, James and Stephen brought 2M2 into the conversation, and that's ultimately how we all got round the table here today.
That's fantastic. Like I said, I've had the very brief tour of the building, and to see the combination of the very high-end office workers environment with an incredibly specific clinical space that you've got for laser machines, and plasma devices, and big robot arms, but you've still got the team, you've got plenty of space to move around. It seems ideal to marry those two worlds.
Absolutely.
Which, like I said at the beginning of this, the idea of calling it a shed, which before I started working at Black Cat, I did not use the word shed to return one of these buildings. Square footage off the top of your head?
40,000 square feet.
But again, I've got no idea.
I would have known that a few years ago.
But to have this much space and have that balance, especially as everyone arrives and walks through the nice space, right? So no, it's a fabulous opportunity to sit down and talk with you guys. So,
and I think, sorry to interrupt you there, Andy, but for us, again, going back to this idea of when people first walk into the facility, it is for me that idea that when we have customers coming over from the States, from Canada, from Europe, Asia, is they have that feeling of security and this idea that these guys are they're serious players, very, very it's a company steeped in technology, if you like. So it felt really important for us that we get that mix.
Absolutely. If anyone's ever looked at my my LinkedIn profile, my brand guardian is my slightly wanky term. But I can see within this business, as a brand person, the brand just goes through it, everywhere. I mean, just on camera here, you can see picking up of the color from the outside, everything there, and I know that's something we can talk about as we go through this. But I suppose if we wind back to that day that you guys decided that you're not going to be in that old premises and you're looking for a plot.
Yes.
Let's start there and let's walk our way through and that experience. What were the challenges that you had there? Because our clients, our listeners, viewers, they may well be having similar things on grander or smaller scales, whatever. Give us an idea.
Yeah, so I think I remember being on Google Earth, as it was, and just looking through potential sort of facility, like the potential facilities that were for sale, and looking at it and seeing this one and thinking, well, it's a decent footprint, and the building was only probably taking up 20% of the entire space, the land. In its format as it was, the land wouldn't have been big enough for what we needed to build. So the land as it was pretty much just is where the footprint of the building is, and car parking space down the front and the side. What was critical to us is that we were able to get support from Homes England to take a strip of land to be our goods in and goods out entrance.
Your neighbour.
So it was kind of scrub land just to the right of the business, not really doing anything. And so after sort of various negotiations with Homes England, we were able to come to an agreement. And again, I have to say, James and Stephen were really helpful in that process in helping us secure that plot to really make the project possible. But it was again, from like step one, it wasn't easy to undertake.
Nothing good's easy though.
Yeah,
right?
correct. So that was how we came about securing this plot, and as I'm sure you can imagine, there was a lot of back and forth on costs and whatnot, but I guess we got to a position that was agreeable to everybody and got it over the line.
And then so plot secured, designs laid out. At what point did you get involved with it? That early stage or
early days?
Early days,
yeah. So Steve and James set up this sort of multidisciplinary sort of client meeting and so on that ran right through the project actually. Initially, we carried out exercise on looking at the existing building and extending it and so on, and it became apparent that the shape wasn't working efficiently and there was a lot of downsides, and so the decision was taken to start afresh, basically, clean sheet of paper. So that's what we did, and that's what we're sitting in at the moment. I think from our perspectives, a few themes came through, as it were, because we try very hard to understand the client before we put pen to paper and really understand the business. And it was clear to us really that so many sheds, industrial sheds, they have this sort of portal shed and then try and hide it behind 3 stories of offices. We were keen that we should try and kind of celebrate what you do. It's integral, it's your business. And so from the early days, we wanted to bring the portal frame, the actual structure of the shed, right through and express it on the frontage. And basically have the offices within that shed. So it's expressing.
For those watching, hopefully right now, we've got a nice picture showing exactly what you're talking about.
Hopefully.
Exactly.
So it was bringing that shed, if you like, that feeling right through to the frontage and then putting this glazed frontage on. So incorporating offices within.
Which we're benefiting from today, these beautiful windows, and we're just bathed in natural light, which is fabulous.
So that was a kind of key thought really initially, and we got very involved with Rich and Gary and others on how the plan form developed and how the process worked in the actual production area, because we were keen to show off, if you like, the heart of the business, the laser machines that you've seen, to bring them to the front of the production area so that they could be viewed from visitors and staff and indeed out on the road. You can actually see them and see the heart of the business. So we got involved very much in that plan form and how the processes work within the production area as well as the office space. So that was a couple of themes that were obvious to us. And the other main thought process, I guess, that drove what you see is It was apparent indeed. I think you mentioned when we were in the old building, your old premises, that even though you're all on one floor and actually quite a small building, you never actually sort of talk very much to each other.
No.
So the thinking here was, yes, we were going to be on the 3 floors, but they must be linked together. So the one of the big drivers was to make a central stair, a feature stair, integral to the design, and to incorporate little sort of coffee stations and sort of informal meeting spaces around that stair, so that you get this sort of linkage between floors.
Yeah.
So that was a big driver.
And there was some scepticism, I have to say,
Yeah.
from Steve and my father, who Steve's now a non-exec director of the business, let's say semi-retired. They were a little bit sceptical that these are never going to be used.
Yeah.
But they are used every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely used every day, and it is really helpful when, for instance, you're perhaps having a meeting with 6 or 7 people, and as meetings do, 4 or 5 of those people need to stay in the meeting, another couple need to peel out. But actually, as you peel out, you can just catch 5 minutes with somebody about maybe something completely different, maybe something on that topic, but literally just outside that meeting room, you can just have another little breakout space where you can take the conversation in a slightly different area that is maybe not too interesting to the other 4 or 5 people that you've left in that meeting,
There's so much space.
Yeah.
And just the little booths you've got, some from they're glazed in fully, and it's weird acoustics sometimes. These look really nice in the sense that they are open, and there's this open, clear, open trust space that you've got with your clients and things.
But I was really, and I still am, quite astounded by how if you're talking in one of those sort of niches, that the sound doesn't reverberate through the rest of the facility.
It's all acoustically lined.
Incredible.
And I think as well, so on arrival today, you're talking about that, the space that your team are using. As you come through the doors, there were people actively having meetings with drawings or whatever they had out in front of them, that you can see the business operating.
Yes.
And maybe there are some skeptics out there as to how important that is, but as businesses evolve and there is more value put in the enjoyment of being in the workspace, then you're front running here. So it's great to see. So so in terms of how we got from those original drawings and then you start to get boots on the ground, what were some of the challenges that you faced?
I think just before we go to that, the final theme I just wanted to bring out that really drove a lot of what you see downstairs, particularly, was your feeling and ours, that we wanted everybody to feel part of the same family.
Yeah.
And there wasn't this separation between the guys on the floor, guys and girls on the floor, and the office staff, and indeed visitors and so on. So we developed the social space that you see downstairs, which basically brings together, for lunch or for anything else, guys off the shop floor, guys upstairs from the offices and so on, in one space, one cafe space, one kitchen area and so on. That's bringing together and leveling up, if you know what I mean, of the whole of the team as one family.
And I love that
big thing.
Concept is that we've tried to keep all of the sort of distinct areas of the facility as high end as we possibly could. So we've got very similar fit out throughout the entire facility, which from a sort of equitable perspective, I think it's really helpful that people feel
it's not the old nicotine stained kind of smoking / lunchroom that I used to.
No, exactly.
When I first kind of joined, was going to these horrible places.
Or indeed,
this is about the people.
Or indeed, guys actually when they're sounding in the car out in the car.
Yeah, absolutely.
Terrible.
And but everybody really respects it as a communal space, and knobs fall off cupboards or whatever, but that beyond the general sort of wear and tear, actually everybody's so proud, I think, of the facility and want to look after it.
Yeah, that's the point. That pride makes them respect the space.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had no problems from that respect at all. Everyone's been great with it. I mean, my personal, because obviously I'll end up being quite customer facing. So in the boardroom that we're in now, we'll obviously do presentations to maybe customers who've travelled in from Europe, and you know, you'll sit, so you'll do a site tour, you'll go through a presentation. What I particularly enjoy doing though is breaking out then for lunch and not having lunch around the boardroom table, having lunch downstairs in the sort of cafeteria area, and I think sort of breaking those barriers down. Often, if someone's come from far afield, I'd like to get them fish and chips for lunch. Because who doesn't want fish and chips? And then, you know, guys off the shop floor sort of moving around the customers, and you know, I really like that as a concept. It kind of, for me, it pulls down some of those barriers between customers, the management in the business, and the shop floor, which, you know, personally I really enjoy that process.
It's great to hear that the building is, you know, facilitates that.
Absolutely.
We're here to talk about buildings, but actually the most important thing is, you know, what's happening.
The effect on the business. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So what challenges have you seen? Kind of all been easy and glorious. You know, what challenges have you seen across the way to actually get to this stage when, you know, so you opened in 2022?
Yep. Yeah. 2022. Yeah.
2022. So what were those challenges that brought us up to that stage when you actually started to?
I mean, they were numerous in that we were in the build right during the middle of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah. COVID struck, and that kind of brought the build down to a crawl. What was it? 11. What was the social distancing? Like 7 meters or 11 meters?
2 meters.
2 meters.
I made a lot of stickers that we had to stick on floors in the industry I was working in at the time. Yeah, it's definitely 2 meters.
We were really restricted to the amount of people that we could have on site, so that really slowed the whole process
of course it did.
down significantly. And there were
Power supply was the other one.
Power supply was huge.
Some fun with. I remember.
Yeah, so we had an issue where we had booked for, let's say, I forget the numbers now off the top of my head, but 700 kVA we'd booked for through a third party. Unfortunately, when James chased up that booking in February or the March, they'd neglected to actually place the booking, and by the time that they were coming back to James, and James was chasing, they were neglecting to come back to him for a period of time. We found out there was maybe 350 kVA, which left us horribly short on the amount of power that we required for the business to run. So we ended up, to cut a very long story short, going through quite a protracted legal process in order to sort of remunerate ourselves to a level that we could find another solution for bringing power into the business. So we put a huge array of PV onto the roof. I don't think there's an inch of that roof that's not PV'd or skylighted. So, you know, that was really important. I have to say, you know, as I cast my mind back, I think there was probably a period where James was heavily involved with our lawyers and attended all of those meetings with the lawyers that we were working with, and you know, helped us get to, you know, what I think was probably a fair outcome. So, you know, there was a heightened point in the process, because that was probably, as you imagine, coming towards the end of the build. Yeah. So it was a relatively stressful period. I remember there was a bit of back and forth with the staircase, wasn't there? Because we really wanted this idea of the staircase being
It is a
that was a
stunning
kind of-
geometric.
That was a
form.
kind of self-imposed challenge because we knew what we wanted to do, but having to do it in 3 dimensions and make sure you got headrooms and so on, that it was quite a challenge. But worked out.
But I kind of, it come back to, I think, what what allowed us to sort of overcome those challenges was that we were a very, it sounds very cliche.
That's right. Good
But
please.
the broader team felt very much part of the business.
Yep.
It felt like everybody was, very unified and bought into it, and there was a very good relationships between all of the parties. There was periods where maybe some of the subcons had let us down, and I'd say that again, Black Cat were very decisive in those moments, and maybe for change in those couple of occasions, which again was what we needed, and you need that third party to be supporting. But when those challenges came, I think the fact that whether it was Ian, who was the project manager from Cumberbirch, the builders, working with yourselves, working with the subcons, working with Black Cat, is everybody was on the same page, and I think everybody understood the brief that we wanted the facility to be an image or portrayal of a highly technical company. And I remember that you'd be in conversation with Ian, where Ian was saying, "Peter, are you happy with this part of the?"
Yes, it was good.
And there was a lot of back and forth and honest conversations, and I think that's the fact that we're all sort of all here together now and have nothing but good things to say about each other is probably
that's a massive reflection of the project,
the success of the project.
There to be 5 years down, and we are all sat here, and you're benefiting from it, and everything there. So that's great. So you just briefly, because you did touch on the PV, and that's especially if you look at this facility on Google Earth or anything like that, it's a stunning part of this, and it as a future building, but it came in really late.
Yes.
So from a design perspective, Peter, how does one adapt to was it a simple process? Could you do that with any of these buildings here?
Probably, yes. I mean, it was late in the day, but it was relatively simple. I mean, they're relatively light. I mean, the roof, the structure could easily take the loadings, and so it was fairly straightforward to incorporate. I remember some discussions with you and your father about having a wind turbine at some point.
But he really wanted all sorts, didn't he? Yeah.
That's still phase 2.
I mean, this part of the world, there's always that wind coming down the Mersey, so you could probably make the most of it. But okay,
just no sunshine.
Yeah, well, there was that. So in terms of how, if you look at it, if you look back and say, well, actually, we've really benefited from that. Let's get our ESG hats on. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a financial benefit from that you wouldn't have had?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, obviously, it's during the peak. I wouldn't want to quote the numbers to you, Andy, but during the sort of the sunnier,
the 3 or 4 days
months, it does really kick in. And I percentages off the top of my head, not sure, but we definitely see a reduction in our energy consumption and the bill.
Yeah. Which is very prevalent right now with everyone's energy consumption costs going up, to actually, to benefit from someone else's mistake, and you've,
absolutely, a long-term gain.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's awesome. So in terms of what's next for Sandon Global, for the BizFizz, and what's happening on this site?
Yeah, so we at the moment we're investing in a let's say a relatively small annex on the side of the building, which again Black Cat are going to PM or are PMing. This is to store some of our extraction equipment that is we believe better suited to a external facility. And I think in terms of the build, we still have objectives to tie in some of the R&D that we're working on and seeing how, you know, in the reception, how we could maybe make that, make that all sort of tie in a little bit neater together. But we, you know, continue to use the facilities we do. So, you know, all of those meeting spaces are used for different processes. The ones on the ground floor get a lot of use for production type meetings. The cafeteria area is, you know, regularly used for, you know, when we have somebody retiring, somebody will go up and say a few words, put a bit of lunch on for the guys and girls. And then for me, the other aspect is it gives us a great platform to diversify our business portfolio away from print. So a big part of my sort of 5-year plan objectives are that we have a great deal of skill and knowledge around coatings. So we have a Dr. Sid, who's a PhD in plasma technology, Dr. Mengwaiju, who is a doctorate in laser technology. And so for me, we've got some really exciting platforms that will allow us, with those specialised coatings and surface treatment processes, allow us to potentially jump into different industries. Yeah. And I think the building gives us a fabulous platform to do that from, really.
Brilliant. Guys, I mean, that's been fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting us or allowing us to come up to your facility. You know, we're going to be doing some other shots, so we'll get to see. So people who are just listening may obviously try and find a way onto YouTube or onto Spotify to actually see some of the content we're talking about here. But yeah, I'd just like to say thank you again, Rich, Peter.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us on Black Cat Chat. We look forward to welcoming you back next time.